Bill Shaikin of the LA Times covers the Angels. Where do I start with this, Bill, with Josh Hamilton?
Well, you basically have a situation where affairs were so hardened between Josh and the Angels that in order to basically get rid of him, the Angels are giving him away.
How did it get that bad?
Artie Moreno, the Angels owner, talked about accountability. He's big on that. And although there wasn't any secret that Josh had substance abuse issues dating far before his time with the Angels and certainly far before his time with the Rangers, Artie looked Josh in the eye, face-to-face, man-to-man, whatever you want to call it, before he signed him. And Josh said, hey, I got a program. I'm clean. I have people working with me. Can't promise you anything because that's how addiction goes, but I'll do everything I can to make this work. And I think Artie was upset that not only did it not work, but also that under the Major League Baseball drug policy, Artie Moreno, as the employer, is precluded from taking any action to help Josh Hamilton. It's all up to the league.
But by self-reporting, did Josh Hamilton somehow ensure that he was going to get paid?
Well, we'll really never know because the question is, would he have failed the test? But the way the drug policy works right now, there's a treatment board that has several criteria to determine whether a guy should be subject to Major League Baseball discipline and should be subject to rehab. And self-reporting isn't addressed in there. I bet it probably will be next time the collective bargaining agreement comes up. But so it was left to an arbitrator to decide, you know what, Josh has been on a program now for 9 years. I don't have the language of the decision in front of me because that hasn't been public, but my understanding is the arbitrator said, look, this isn't a habitual slip-up. This is more of a one-time slip. We're going to treat it that way. So, no, he does not have to go to rehab, and no, you cannot suspend him.
But even though they had language in his contract with the Angels?
Well, that would have been a great debate because Artie came out right away and said, no, there's language in there that would supersede the drug agreement, just an agreement between the Angels and Josh Hamilton. And the union came out and said, not only is that language not in there, but that's not even allowed. And then the commissioner's office came out and told us, well, we don't really agree with the union on that. It would have gone to an arbitration hearing. It would have prolonged the process. And based on precedent, the Angels probably had very little chance of winning. So in that sense, that sort of leads to the trade where, you know, if we're stuck with Josh Hamilton and we don't want him and we have to cut him and pay $83 million, can we get a little back in return? And the answer is yes, very little.
How bad was the relapse for Hamilton?
Well, hopefully, and what we're hearing is that Josh is going to have a press conference when the deal is done, and he is a member of the Texas Rangers, and hopefully he'll address that because he hasn't, and his agents haven't.
And he filed for divorce as well?
Yes.
I guess looking at this from the humanitarian position, is Arlington the better place is that the best place for Josh Hamilton?
Probably at this point, only because, as you mentioned, he's going through a divorce. The family home is, in the Arlington, Dallas area. He's got 4 kids. But also, and just as a matter of human nature, people tend to do better in places they've had success. And Josh has known his greatest success in Texas. And what the Angels would tell you is we looked at what the Rangers did to support Josh Hamilton.
Yeah.
And we brought on people to work with him on accountability, and we provided him the things the Rangers did. And for whatever reason, it didn't work. But we know that it did work in Texas, and I think Josh also knows the 2 years in Anaheim have been pretty dismal, not only off the field but on it. And this might be his last best chance to establish himself as a really good Major League Baseball player one more time.
How was Josh Hamilton to cover?
He's a really good guy, and I think that's part of what surrounds this is when stuff comes up with Josh Hamilton, and I mean mostly injury stuff, I mean, he'll talk to you about it. A lot of guys, I'm just here to play the game. Don't talk to me about it. I'm tough. Josh will go on and tell you about every last thing going on. He's friendly. He wants to get to know you as a person, which a lot of guys don't. He can be a really charming guy.
Talking to Bill Shaikin, who covers the Angels for the LA Times. The bigger picture here that Artie Moreno and the Angels went all in. That it was almost like a 5-year plan that we're gonna try to squeeze out at least 1 or 2 World Series appearances. How would you rate what has happened here since they brought in Pujols? I mean, they lucked out with Trout, But they ponied up some big ticket items here.
Well, Trout, remember, was a draft pick.
Yeah.
I mean, Artie, when he decided to go all in, he was the guy that decided to go after Albert Pujols. That was not the baseball operations guys, and he was the guy that wanted Josh Hamilton. And at this point, you look and say, Hamilton isn't even the first outfielder that they've dumped with 2 years left on a deal, or more than 2 years. They did it with Vernon Wells. Mm-hmm. They did it with Gary Matthews Jr. Those are signings under Artie Moreno. The Angels have had a great run under Moreno. They've been as successful as ever, and probably more successful, really, than at any time before he bought the club. But at some point you look and say, Josh Hamilton on a one-time basis, okay. Pattern? Yeah, it's probably pattern.
Bill, thanks for joining us. We appreciate your time.
All right, take care, Dan.
All right, Bill Shaikin covers the Angels for the LA Times.